Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday to everyone. Let me go ahead and bring on my new co-host here. For y'all who do not know, Mr. Justin Hicks, who has been joining me for the past couple of weeks now, doing an awesome job, by the way, Justin.
Thank you, sir. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing pretty good. We're gonna try to get y'all's football Saturday morning kicked off. Let's go ahead and roll right on into it. We're gonna talk about last week's scores. Go over a quick review real quick. Clemson blew Georgia Tech's ass out 73-7. I'm glad I didn't pick Georgia Tech. Lawrence had 404 passing yards in this. Boy, dude, that dude's a beast, man.
Tearing it up. I got some of these stats here.
Go ahead.
1,544 passing yards, one interception, and a 91.3 QBR for like over 70. I think he's 73% or something like that with his QBR. Basically, his quarterback or not his QBR, but his passer rating. That's unreal. 70%. He's money.
Some might argue it's because he's in the ACC, but that dude's a good quarterback, man. I don't care what anyone says. And I'm not a fan of Clemson. Next up, you had Georgia and Bama, the game of the week last week. Oh, I knew better, but let's go ahead and be real, folks. I really thought Nick Saban was not going to be there. I had mentioned it to someone, and someone said, well, I think it was William, actually. William had told me that, well, I thought he was cleared for 2 or 3 days prior. I said, I never heard nothing about that. The only thing I ever heard was he had to pass 3 tests. Well, come to find out he took 5 that week.
Yeah.
Which was an overkill of tests, just so he could get on the field. We know what
getting in there. Yeah.
So if I would have known that he was actually going to be present, I probably wouldn't have went with Georgia, but I did, and that made an ass. Nick Saban once again makes an ass out of me. The time Bronx, Georgia,
and Kirby, not just you, but Kirby.
And Kirby too. Kirby still, none of his assistants still have beat him. He's undefeated against his assistants. So once again, Bama wins 41-24. Jones was a beast in this game with 417 yards. This kid has come out on fire. I'm not going to lie, Auburn fans, I've said it before, we were licking our chops when we found out he was the starting quarterback because the way he looked at the end of last year. But it was one of those things. He hadn't got a snap all year. He come off the bench. It was one of those things. He's turned out to be a fantastic quarterback for Alabama.
Absolutely. He's phenomenal this year. He's playing lights out.
Unless some other teams start to step up, I think we're going to see Alabama versus Clemson in the national championship again. I mean, I think that's what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, because they're staying solid 1 and 2. So
yeah, and I mean, Bama is dominant. Bama looks like a national championship team. I mean, their defense looks good. Their offense looks good. They got burnt that one game. Nick Saban does what he does. He went there and made the adjustments and fixed every damn thing. God, but we wouldn't give to have a coach like that at Auburn. Next up, you have Louisville taking on Notre Dame. Notre Dame struggles in this one bad, but they get it done. They win 12 to, what was it, 7? Yeah,
12-7. Yes, sir. Interesting.
It's interesting because I always said for years that Notre Dame never played in a real conference. They're always overrated every year, and it wasn't me hating on them. It was just the fact that they play in the independent league, and every year they have a tendency of putting them in the top 10. No matter their record the previous year. It's like a bias. It's like an unbiased thing that they do with Notre Dame. They used to have a bad habit about doing it with Southern California too.
Yeah.
Southern California could have a shitty year, and next year they'd be ranked in the top 3, which, I think a lot of that has to do with recruiting.
Yeah.
Returning seniors and all that kind of thing, but still.
The thing about Notre Dame too, they on those they could play basically whoever they want, minus a few teams that are rivals or whatever.
What I would always say is they would play like a number 17 team, and then play like a number, maybe the highest ranked team they would play might be like a number 9 or something like that. Yeah. The rest of their games was like Army, Air Force, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those type of games. And I think that's why Notre Dame never got a whole lot of respect.
South Florida. That's one.
South Florida, yeah. And then they would be undefeated at the end of the year or have one loss where they lost against that number 17 team or whoever, and then beat their chance they deserve to be in the national championship.
Absolutely. That's why you can't really give them clout. And you still can't yet because of what Louisville did last week or was able to do, keep it very, very close.
Yep. Next up, you had A heartbreaking game for North Carolina. I think everybody was on the North Carolina bus with North Carolina just to see them do good in football for once. They've been dominating all year. They was undefeated. And FSU, who has been a terrible team all year for FSU, I know those FSU fans in there look pretty sad most of the year so far, but somehow they pull it off and get the win against North Carolina, 31-28. Carolina looked like shit in this game. They definitely did not look like the number 5 team. And all year so far, like the past couple of weeks, I've been saying, hell, they could be maybe possibly a top 4 team. But now, maybe I was wrong.
maybe not even a top 24 team at this point.
Yeah, they look pretty bad against FSU. If people don't remember, Miami thumped them.
Yeah,
really, really hard. So FSU's been struggling all year. Next up, you had Texas A&M go into Mississippi State, and as I predicted in this one, Texas A&M gets it done, 28-14. Mississippi State, who has not much of a defense, I don't think. Their offense throws like 70 passes a game.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. That worked the first game.
Yeah.
But after everyone's adjusted to it, now we know you can't run. You're gonna throw the ball. Actually, in this one they had let's see. I don't know if that's ESPN. Don't give me which running back that is, and I don't remember who's running backs for who. One of the running backs had 14 yards.
They don't really use running back. Their running backs are their receivers, basically, and they're doing a lot out of the backfield. On NCAA's website, which you got to take into fact of total games played and all that this year especially, their defense doesn't look terrible. I think they're in the top 15 or 20. But again, the way they are throwing the ball, that kind of takes away from it. The defense is going to be out there more. And I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but they're going to be able to get a sack or something like that. So sacks are going to show up on the board and things like that. So Mississippi State definitely I don't know what you'd call them, but we'll see. We'll see if Mike Leach ever gets this going in the SEC.
We shall see. I love Mike Leach though. Like, just as a person, he's just like awesome, dude.
I do too.
He is so awesome, man. He is so comical and shit. I think I heard a story about someone went there to talk football with him, and then they end up in a 4-hour conversation about like the Civil War and World War II because he's like a big history buff. So I know I would love to talk to him.
And to Pirates also. He's a huge Pirate fan. So,
is he?
Just all kinds of he's a character, and that's what college football, we need at least one, and he's the one.
Happy college football Saturday. You better go get your Auburn gear on, girl.
Uh-oh. War Eagle, baby.
My lovely old lady supporting. I love it.
There we go.
That's what it's about. Next up, you had Pittsburgh taking on the number 13 Miami Hurricanes. Miami gets this win, 31-19, with a bounce back from what they did from that loss they had the week previous. Mm-hmm. Next up was the heartbreaker of a game I had to watch between Auburn and South Carolina. Oh, my God. I don't even want to talk about this game. Another game that Auburn should have won. Bo Nix had 272 yards, but I can't remember how many damn picks he had, but it was a lot.
I did not watch the game, and I was shocked when I seen the score. I know you've been telling me all year about this Kevin Steele defense and them on offense just kind of doing the same stuff.
Yep.
And that's some of the first thing or two things that came to mind right at first. Will Muschamp obviously puts a lot of emphasis on his defense, especially against SEC foes. Still only losing by 8 points. I mean, that's a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So it was doable. I just
in this game, you had Auburn who got very, very frustrated. You even had Bo Nix and Seth Williams on the sideline arguing. They got in a heated argument for a second because Nix was either throwing too far behind him or he was throwing too far in front of him. And there was a bunch of times that Seth was wide open. I can't. I've argued with Auburn fans to the point that I'm blue in the face about it. It all comes back to one person, Gus Malzahn. Yeah. You can blame Bo Nix, which I do sometimes, and you can blame Seth Williams for making a miss, and you can blame the defense for letting them score. But it all comes back down to Gus Malzahn. He cannot develop players. He just can't. These guys that come out of high school, some people don't realize, yes, they're a 4 or 5 star recruit, but don't mean that they know the all ins and outs of the game. They're still amateur level. That's what college is for. It's for them to get ready to go to the pro level of it.
Absolutely.
So it's just Bo Nix. And once again, every time he wouldn't even get pressured, and he would scramble, and every time go to the right. Every time sling the ball, and he is so inaccurate when he is on the scramble. It is unreal.
I've noticed watching him play because he's a special athletic quarterback, and you keep saying Gus. This is the dangerous week too because, we'll get into that in a little bit, but Ole Miss is on the schedule, so I don't know if anybody's really kissing up to Gus right now. But this is a winnable game for him when we get into the statistics. If he loses, man, do you pull the trigger? I know you've been wanting to pull the trigger on him for a while, though, haven't you, Tom?
Yeah, for many years. Okay, I wanted to pull the trigger on him before the kick 6 at Alabama.
Yeah,
when they gave him the big fat contract after, I wanted to kick him before then.
I didn't understand the contract after that. I know you beat Alabama, but look at in the fashion and way you did it, and plus they lost in the national championship, did they not? Yeah. Okay, so
and that was 4 years previous to that. That was back in 2013 or something.
Yeah, it's been a while now. It's been a few years. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I could go on. We ain't gonna stuck on that. I could go on for days, but they should fire Gus Malzahn's ass.
Well, we'll save it for this Ole Miss game.
There is a lot of rumors that I've seen that's coming out of Auburn that this could be potentially the game. If he loses, he's on the hot seat, like officially on the hot seat.
There's a lot of loses. You need to throw him in the fire already. You need to get the seat.
There's a lot of names that are being mentioned for replacements, and Lane Kiffin is one of them.
Oh, wow. So
Lane is one of them. Hugh Freeze is one of them. Some of us wants us to go after Minnesota's coach.
Fleck.
Yes, they want us to go after him. Yeah, okay. I'll bring him in. The reason I say bring him in is because we know what Lane Kiffin's had head coaching jobs, and he's not really succeeded. Right. So is Hugh Freeze. If you brought maybe him in and something different that the SEC's not used to looking at with his schemes and his playbook, you might get a good fucking 2 or 3 years out of him before everybody starts putting. And to me, if you bring in someone who's kind of leveled-headed and kind of powerful, they're going to do all right at Auburn because really, in reality, Nick Saban only has a few years left.
Yeah, I mean, he's in his late 60s or 70s now. Yes. I mean,
I don't see him pulling the Joe Paterno being like in such bad shape. He's up there with a headset on, calling plays from up in the damn booth and shit because he can't be on the field because he's got walking pneumonia or some shit. That's the shit Joe Paterno used to do. They used to kill me.
He's not going to be a lifer because, and I'll say this and we'll move on if you want to, but he has a future in media. If you see him on ESPN,
I think he would be great on ESPN as an announcer or a commentator or something like that, dude. His insight would be awesome to hear all the time. Yeah. Anybody would tune in just to listen to Nick talk about his inside of football. I hate him.
And as a fellow West Virginia native, I have to root for him, even though he's way up there in the panhandle somewhere. I would have to root for him as a broadcaster. And I think you would too, because you wouldn't have to face him anymore.
Exactly. Next up, you had Boston College and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech gets it done. Navy, East Carolina. Navy gets it done. Texas State and South Alabama. I picked South Alabama in this just because out of state pride, and they actually won 30-20. Let's see. West Virginia gets it done over Kansas. UAB beats Western Kentucky.
Ooh.
Let's see. Here's a good one. Memphis beats Central Florida 50-49. That was a scoring frenzy of a game, and we said last week that was going to be tight. It would be
high scoring.
Yeah, high scoring. So. Next up, you had Ole Miss and Arkansas. Ole Miss falls to Arkansas 33-21. Other big games. Marshall beats Louisiana Tech 35-17.
To break into the top 25. Huge game for the Thundering Herd right there.
Troy gets another win over Eastern Carolina. Wake Forest and Virginia. Wake Forest beats Virginia 40-23. And of course, you had all those postponed games, like Baylor and LSU's and Florida's and all that. So that didn't happen. All right, let's go on to next week's. While I find next week's, let's take a commercial break real quick.
Yes, sir.
As soon as I find it. There it is.
So bad outside the bar, heading out as far away I can. Heart is pounding, got the damn out of hand. Doing 90 through the city night. Nothing's ever gonna be alright. Life will never be what it was. Hands are shaking, 'cause now my future is crashing down on me. They try to kill me when I fall back. Break the scars with a baseball bat. The justice will never make this right. I need to run and stay out of sight. And no choice, it was me or them. Now for a lifetime I'm condemned. I can forget my old set way of life. I go to prison or die.
That is the Total Nonstop Podcast. Catch it every Thursday with me and Gene Emerson at 8 o'clock Central Time, where we go over AEW, WWE. It gets put to a vote every week in a poll, and the fans decide what show we cover.
I wanted to say I really like how you guys do the poll. It seems like AEW won last. I don't know how often they win, but
actually, that's the first time they had won. Before that, it was a pay-per-view that we covered, or it was a draft that we covered.
Oh, yeah.
Before that, it was a pay-per-view. I figured this week the pay-per-view will win it because WWE's got a pay-per-view.
Sunday. Yeah, exciting sports weekend.
Yeah, nice. I love it when it's like that. It stacks all up in a row.
Same.
All right, let's go ahead and get it rolling for this week's schedule. Thursday, you had Arkansas State and Appalachian State. Appalachian State laid an ass whooping on Arkansas State, 45-17, and I actually took Arkansas State in this one. I know that we talk about this guy's picks.
Real men of genius.
But that real man of genius was a lazy ass this week and did not give me his pick. So therefore, Mr. Bayou Jax, you will end up having 47 losses by the end of today because you did not get me your picks, and that puts you in a real bind and going to put me way ahead in the picks. I actually went with Arkansas State in this one. They lost. Next up, you had Illinois and number 14, Wisconsin. This is actually Big Ten play. Everybody that has been waiting for the Big Ten to finally start, they finally joined the party. I took Wisconsin in this one.
Paid off.
45-7 over the Fighting Alumni. Next up, you had Jacksonville State and Florida International. Jacksonville State gets this one done. I took JSU because, well, that is for you that don't know, Jacksonville State is in Alabama. In case you didn't know,
yeah.
If anybody's ever wondered, I'm pretty sure no one ever has. I'm pretty sure no one's ever said, "Where the hell's JSU at?" Next up,
you seem to be an Alabama home fan right there. Not the Roll Tide, but yeah. As I am with West Virginia, though. So
well, I have to be. I'm from Alabama, so
we only have 2 schools, so it's fairly easy for me. Y'all have like 25. So
what's crazy is where I'm from. I'm actually closer to Tuscaloosa than I am to Auburn.
And that's how it worked. Like you said one day, you got crimson or red or orange to pick from, and that's how it happened.
I think that's what helped me hate Alabama also, because it was always being shoved. Because it was not far. I lived like 30 minutes from Tuscaloosa. You know what I mean? So
right.
It was terrible, dude. Next up, you had UAB and Louisiana. UAB drops a game here. Louisiana gets it done 24-20 over UAB. Oh, excuse me. Over UAB. That's a heartbreaker, man. I hate every time UAB loses.
Yeah, especially from where they've been, losing the program and coming back. And
yeah, so I know some people say, well, what's the big deal about it? UAB ain't had a football program but since like 1995.
Yeah.
They've not had a football program very long at all. So, I mean, and I know that seems like that's a long time, but for a college football program, you got programs that are
not at all.
almost 200 years old. I mean, it seems like, you'll look back and they've been playing games since 1909 or some shit,
And they actually lost their football team how many years back? 3 years back or so?
3 years back or something like that. I still, like I said, I will go on the record and I will say, and I don't give a damn who likes it, that was all Alabama boosters that have had their hands in that to kill UAB's program. I think that Tuscaloosa knows the real threat that would happen if UAB ever grew.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of big players that Bama gets comes out of Birmingham. I think if UAB ever had a straight college football program and a good university and a good campus, because they don't. They play in old damn Legion Field down there, and it's all beat up to hell. The stadium's raggedy as hell. It's probably hard as hell to get good players there because of how bad the facilities are. But if UAB ever could grow and start and develop something in Birmingham, they would hurt Alabama's recruits bad, because a lot of boys would much rather stay in Birmingham and play football than go to Tuscaloosa. So, first up, we got Clemson at Syracuse, 11 a.m. kickoff time on the ACC network. I'm sorry, this is a no-brainer for me. I took Clemson.
Yeah, same for me. I picked Syracuse. I'm kidding. I wanted to hit you with that no-brainer, Syracuse, but Clemson's going to roll over them. Sorry, Orange men, but it's time.
Yeah, and I like Syracuse too. I'll pull for them just because they always suck. Next up, you got Nebraska at number 5, Ohio State. Some more Big Ten play coming in. These are two teams that is 11 a.m. kickoff time on Fox. We have no idea what Nebraska's really bringing or what Ohio State's really bringing. We've not seen them all year. This is dangerous for the Big Ten. I know some people kind of think that it's more dangerous for the other opponents who's been playing all year, but now they're done in a rhythm. People don't understand college football. Football's about rhythm, getting in rhythm. Really, those first couple of weeks, you kind of toss them out the window. Like, you don't even try to look into too much what they do the first couple of weeks, because there's either usually first game jitters, or you got guys who's playing new positions and they've not adjusted yet, or whatever the case may be. This could be dangerous for the Big Ten. They start coming here and playing some of these bigger teams that's already adjusted. They're in a nice rhythm. They're in a nice winning streak. They could really put a big hurt on the Big Ten. But this one I went with Ohio State. I know Nebraska's been looking good for the past couple of years, but Ohio State just gets all those damn players, man.
They do, and they have Fields leading the pack there at quarterback, and I'm sure all kinds of skill positions. It wouldn't surprise me if Nebraska keeps it close, though, just because of Frost and that system he brings in. He runs it to, perfection. You see what he did at UCF. Nebraska's eventually going to be there, but I don't know about this year.
I don't know about this year either. I'm hoping that he can get Nebraska. I try to tell people, when I was a child and I was starting to get into football pretty heavy, which was probably like mid-90s, because I was born in 84. So mid-90s, I probably started taking football really serious and started watching and keeping up with stats and stuff like that. I remember Nebraska used to be a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And Nebraska used to be the team to go to. They was like the Alabama of the mid-90s, man. They were dominant, dude. I remember when they even went into the detail of showing you how they upgrade their facilities. And at the time, they had like the top notch of facilities of all college football at that time. They probably don't now, but at that time they did. And I remember always, like as a kid, I was always amazed by Nebraska a little bit because they were badass when I was a kid. Next up, you got number 23, North Carolina State at number 14, North Carolina. North Carolina State, I got them in an upset over North Carolina. I think after me seeing the Hoes in North Carolina after watching them play last week, North Carolina State's been looking really damn good, and they would love to go in there into good old North Carolina and get a win over the number 14 team.
I'm kind of in agreement with you. I don't know a ton about NC State's defense, but where I think UNC messed up last week, just looking at the stats, I didn't watch the game. There was some other stuff. I actually watched the boxing, the Loma versus Lopez. Sorry, I had to take a minute. Too many L's.
Too many L's.
And that's what UNC grabbed was an L, and it was a late game. But just looking at the stats, losing 28 to 31, the rushing yards were down. They did a lot of things right from a statistics standpoint, but their offense was just on the field too long. So I said, just try to keep your defense out there, because I think the turnover ratio was close. But UNC, I don't know. I'm going to ride with UNC, but we'll see. Time will tell. It could have just been Mac Brown and his alma mater again. He is now 0-7. He is now 0-7 versus his two alma maters, Tulane and Florida State.
I know North Carolina fans are probably looking at me going, "You don't know what the hell you're talking about." I've only got three upsets wrong this year so far. So
there you go. And this is a trap game really for UNC. They're just coming off a loss. I could see it happening because I'm trying to find out exactly what happened, and NC State, an in-home rival, could definitely come out with it. 23rd ranked in the country.
Oh yeah. Next up, you got Kansas and Kansas State. I guess you would call this a rivalry game. 11 a.m. FS1. I'll be honest with you guys. Kansas ain't going to get this done. Kansas State probably beats them pretty badly. Out of Les Miles' defense, it's Kansas.
Yeah.
Okay, it's probably murder trying to recruit there. I can imagine trying to call someone to come to Kansas at all. They got 5 other teams they could go to. They could go enjoy California. They can come to Kansas. I'm pretty sure that's really hard to recruit someone up that way. And he ain't had time to put nothing together there yet. So I see Les Miles maybe getting some good wins at Kansas here and there later on in the future, but it's just not now. Like I said, I got Kansas State and probably a blowout in this one, I figure.
Same. I figure in the 30s anyway.
Yeah, next up, you got Georgia Southern at number 25, Coastal Carolina. Yes, you heard that right. Number 25, Coastal Carolina. Man, this year has been crazy in a nutshell, man. Like, it's crazy when it comes, like, even to the sports. College football, it's been nuts. Like, and this is the year that I was supposed to explain to my old lady who lives in a very pro-dominating state. So they don't really care about college football around here a whole lot. And her love of sports, she's trying to get into it with me. And it has been so hard trying to explain this year. Like, well, who do you think is going to win it? Well, of course, North Carolina ain't going to be good. Then they end up being good. And then Coastal Carolina ends up being in the top 25. I mean, you got, Marshall. You said Marshall broke the top 25.
We're 22nd, 5th in overall defense.
It's just crazy, man. This whole year has been nuts.
Absolutely. And these teams, like we mentioned, the Big Ten is back. So I look for some of these teams to kind of peter out like a Coastal Carolina, but so far so good. They're in the top 30 or 35, I believe, in total defense, and maybe a little bit better. I didn't write any defensive stats down, but it's Coastal Carolina. That's why I did.
Right. I mean, let them stick around for a few weeks before we start worrying about their stats. Is how I feel about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Next up, you got Mercer at Army, 11 a.m. kickoff time on CBS-SN. Of course, I went with Army in this one.
Yeah.
Auburn and Ole Miss.
I just see the look on your face. Go ahead and give us a rundown, Tommy. So I got.
Oh my God!
Can I tell you? Can I tell you something first? Because I said I wanted to save it for this. If this is the week for anybody to be saved or whatever, which I know, I think you would sacrifice this Auburn football team to get rid of Gus, wouldn't you? I mean, this year. But here we go. Auburn and Ole Miss. Ole Miss has given up 579, basically 580 yards per game, 25 touchdowns, 23 offensive. They are the next to last defense, 74th so far as we get our Big Ten teams back. Next to last. Last place is Memphis. They are next to last in total defense.
Yeah, but they can really burn you on offense.
That's
what I
true.
worry about.
That's true. So Kevin Steele and Co really have to go to work this week and try to pinpoint it. But last week, Arkansas is good defensively. They had those linebackers, and you guys, go ahead and give your take. I'm gonna pick Auburn, by the way.
Should I go ahead and just press the button? No, it ain't. I got Auburn. The only reason I got Auburn in this is not just from a fan standpoint. I think Auburn barely squeaks by. They barely squeak by Ole Miss just because I feel like Ole Miss is not going to. Auburn has just a little bit better defense than Ole Miss does. So defense is actually what's going to win the game, I think. I don't think it's even going to be offense. I think they'll just end up going back and forth for the first half, scoring because there's no defense to be played.
Right.
But I don't know, man. Maybe. That's 11 a.m. kickoff time. I won't even be here to watch it. Let's put it that way. That's how much I care about that game, ladies and gentlemen. That's how much I care about the game.
I can tell. I can see the sickness on your face.
Oh,
right now. I'm sorry.
I've had the same facial expression ever since they hired Gus Malzahn. I mean, when they hired him, I went, why?
What you kind of went back to the Gene Chizik days, though. Same offense.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, he was a great offensive coordinator, but like when it was time for him to get a head coaching job, the only people that anyone that offered him one really was Arkansas State. Yeah. So you know what I'm saying, like, and then he come back, and I gave him credit where credit's due. He came back. They made that national championship run that year. He does beat Bama a pretty good bit, but he only beats Bama at Auburn. He never goes to Tuscaloosa and beats Bama. He never goes to Athens and beats Georgia. He never goes to LSU and beat LSU. And that's the three main teams we got to beat to win the damn championship is Auburn. Is Alabama, Georgia, and LSU. Like, it's just terrible.
And then the other SEC teams just sprinkled in there. You got to worry about them.
Not only that, he's only won 2 bowl games.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. I haven't dove that deep.
Oh my God! At one time, he was 0-4 in bowl games.
Oh my goodness!
And I don't even mean good bowl games, ladies and gentlemen. I mean like the Music City Bowl.
So they should. Are you saying Gene Chizik got the shaft and Gus? I shouldn't say that. I should say
there's an Auburn fan that did this big old thing the other day on our page, on this Auburn fan page I'm part of, about how we should apologize to Gene Chizik. Okay, the thing about Gene Chizik is this is how I look at Gene Chizik. He might have won a national championship in 2010, but he only did that because he had a Cam Newton at quarterback.
Anybody could have won with that roster and what they had.
There was just no one to stop Auburn that year. Auburn had an average defense with a very good offense, and it had a spread that no one had ever seen before.
Mm.
Nobody, SEC had never seen that kind of offense before. It was confusing to them. Okay, so. And then you had the rest of the team that wasn't even Gene Chizik. It was Tommy Tuberville's. That was all his recruits.
Yeah.
Gene Chizik just got there. When it come down to it, the very next year, he fell flat on his face and didn't win a bowl game. The year after that, he won, 2 games?
I thought they got rid of him after. So he was there about 3 years? Or
it was something like I can't remember if it was 2 or 3. But I know that about the year we got rid of him, he had a 2-win season.
Well, there was this guy they had an offensive coordinator the year they won that national championship. What was his name again? Was it?
It was Gus.
I know. I was just trying to.
But it's just. Sometimes you look at Auburn now. You got 2 who's supposed to be offensive masterminds of football, and they can't run a damn offense. How is that possible?
Chad Morris. I look at him, and he has an impress. He's been at SMU now. And you see what SMU's doing. Big game tonight for them, unbeaten, proud of them.
I think they're just those type of guys that only work at like a SMU or an Arkansas State.
Yeah.
You look at it and say, "Oh, well, that's impressive." Well, when you're playing shitty ass
Sun Belt
conference that has no defense, of course that offense looks impressive.
Yeah.
Of course it does. All right, moving along. Next up, we got Oklahoma and TCU. This is a big game between these two. Neither one of them are ranked, but this is just a big game in general. Oklahoma and TCU is.
Yeah.
11 a.m. kickoff time, ABC, and I went with – who did I go with? TCU is who I went with.
You went – okay. Would that count as an upset because they're both kind of sitting in the same boat? I'm going to go Oklahoma just because I feel like Rattler, I think Rattler is the quarterback. I feel like he'll get it rolling a little bit, enough Lincoln Riley and that offensive scheme to get it going to win. They're not going to drop too many more in the Big 12, I don't think.
Right. Next up, you got Temple and Memphis. Oh, man. After that last week game with Memphis and Central Florida, I'm still going with Memphis in this one. I just think Memphis has got a high, powerful offense. They'll end up scoring a lot of points on Temple. Temple's defense won't be able to stop them. On why Temple might score some points. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to hang what Memphis is on the scoreboard. So next up, you got UTEP and Charlotte. I took UTEP in this one.
That's fair enough. I don't know what Charlotte ever does. I hate to say that, but, Charlotte's never on TV.
Next up, you got the Battle of Florida State and Louisville.
This is an interesting little game, honestly, because it's the battle of the bads.
Yes, the battle of the bads here. I took Louisville in this one. I mean,
I'm with you. I think Louisville hanging tough with Notre Dame last week with the defense, with all those recruits, as we mentioned earlier. I think that's enough to give Louisville the nod. Now,
I got Rutgers and Michigan State here, and even though today is Saturday, it still is to be announced. So I don't know if they're actually playing today or not. They might end up postponing that game, or they might end up. It's Rutgers and Michigan State. I end up taking Michigan State in this one anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to actually play today. So next up, Southern Miss and Liberty. I had to go with Liberty in this one.
Hey, the fighting Hugh Freezes, and that ain't the first time you'll hear me say the fighting whoever's. Hugh Freeze, I think they're 5-0 this year. Liberty.
Yeah, that's insane. Think about that, people. Liberty is undefeated. Next up, Tulane in Central Florida. Not to beat my chest, but I told all Central Florida fans that they are not the Central Florida of the past, and they fell off. Memphis proved that last week.
The worst defense in all of college football proved that last week. Not just Memphis, but that little trademark with them. I'm with you. I'm just anti-UCF.
Next up, you got Florida Atlantic at the very shocking number 22 Thunder and Herd of Marshall. That game's at 1:30. They don't have a channel on here, so it must not be televised. Which that's not shocking.
If so, it'll be CB. But I think it would show CBS Sports. Let me throw something at you here, Tommy. Marshall, 5th ranked, and I did get them in Oklahoma State a couple stats, but I fixed it up. Marshall, 274.8 yards allowed per game. 12 sacks for the defense, 3 interceptions all year so far. Plenty of pass breakups. Marshall, they're riding that defense, and they're giving Grant Wells, who the numbers don't stick out to you. He's good, but he's not a world breaker. Charleston, West Virginia native. So there you go. I think Marshall gets it done again. This is something special. I hope it brews into something big. Conference USA championship and a bigger bowl game for them. So I'm gonna ride with my home state, Marshall Thunder and Herd, to get it done over FAU.
Yeah, I got Marshall too winning this one. We're gonna take a commercial break. We'll be right back. That is the Paradigm Shift. You can catch us every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central with me, the Moose Man, William H.D. Morgan, and the Presidente, Josh. I don't know what the show is this week. I don't think we've decided, so it's not been announced yet. But every week we do anything. If we go over pay-per-views, we have spotlight moments. This past week we just did Paul Heyman, which was pretty awesome.
I seen a little bit of that. That was great, man.
I love that one. That was definitely better than the week before the '92 Royal Rumble. I can tell you that. That shit was boring. All right. Next up, you had let's see, where we at? There we are. You got the Crimson Tide at the Tennessee Volunteers. 2:30 kickoff time, CBS. Basically, let me go ahead and just break this down in a nutshell. The Crimson Tide has been the Tennessee Volunteers' daddy for many, many, many years. That's not going to change this week. I think even when you see Pruitt in the interviews, he's got this look on his face like they know they can't win. Okay. I just feel like we had talked earlier, I feel like Nick Saban is in beast mode this year.
Yeah.
He's got this I don't know, man. There's something about him. Like I've noticed like in his interviews and his look and his determination, like he kind of looks like the Nick Saban of the past a little bit, like when he first arrived. I don't know if it's because he's hungry to get this other national championship and break the Bears record and probably call it done. That might have a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think like I said, Bama might be unstoppable this year. They look like one of their stronger national championship teams I've seen since Nick Saban's been there. I see them blowing Tennessee out. You know, like
I do too, because they did Georgia, and we seen what Georgia did to Tennessee. So by lack of what is it, survival of the fittest, Alabama just rolls on yet again. Nothing to say.
I'm sorry, y'all will not be singing Rocky Mountaintop tonight after this game.
You can after you have the drinks that you're going to need to watch this game, and just cry in your own tears. I'm sorry, Tennessee fans, but.
Next up, you got Notre Dame at Pittsburgh. 2:30 kickoff time. I'll go ahead and let you take this one first.
You see, I got a few Pitt stats. Pitt is one of the only teams that's played 6 full games. They're 3-3. They got a big defensive line. Some of them's about 6'3", but still, that's a pretty big beefed up line. They got a lot of rotations. Pat Narduzzi. But let me tell you this: 28 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 3 recovered, 8 interceptions, and offensively they don't really have anything going, but defensively they can hang. That's Pat Narduzzi's identity, and they are 7th in total defense. Notre Dame is 11th, and I just see, I'm not if I'm going to call upset, this is the one, but I can't pick Pitt because I'm from West Virginia. I'm picking Notre Dame, but I'm saying I'm not going to be shocked if Notre Dame loses to Pitt because they've done it in the past. Yeah, like in the last 5-10 years. So I'm still going to pick Notre Dame, but there's some stats to throw out there. Plus that Louisville game last week, just had to mention it.
Notre Dame is number 3, but that was only because Georgia's lost to Alabama. Well, I've got Notre Dame going down in this one. I've got Pitt's defense ends up getting the best of them. I don't think Notre Dame's shit this year.
I'm glad you picked them. I can't. I'll get run out of my home state. That's like if you picked I don't know that whoever. That's like if you picked LSU to beat or whoever.
Next up, you got Iowa State at number 6. Is that 6 or an 8? I don't know.
Number 6.
Number 6, Oklahoma State. 2:30 kickoff time on Fox. Iowa State has got me some wins this year, but I got to go OK State in this one. And that's just because I know what a high power offense OK State can have. They can score a lot of points.
They really can. That's what that whole system's based on.
Yep.
And not bad defensively.
Next up, you got Penn State at Indiana. I got, of course, Penn State getting the win here. They are number 8 in the nation. Indiana could possibly pull off the upset here. I've seen it happen before.
It could. And this week 1, man, anything. It's everybody in Big Ten's week 1, as you mentioned before. So we're going to learn a lot this week, and then next week, everything we learned this week is out the window. That's how it's going to be for about the next 3 to 4 weeks. with the Big Ten games. But I'm with you, Penn State.
Yeah, I got Penn State winning that one. I feel like Penn State is kind of starting to get back to the graces of Penn State that Penn State used to be.
Yeah.
National
powerhouse, sort of.
National powerhouse recruiting. They're in a great recruiting spot. Penn State gets great players. They're kind of like the Floridas and, kind of like in their location where they're at, because you got all those good players up there in Pennsylvania and stuff. It's right in that big-ass area. They just grab people. So, of course, everybody knows Penn State. The days of glory was ripped from them from over other stuff that was going on. So it's nice to see them that they're starting to get back in.
It truly is. I agree with you.
Number 19, Virginia Tech at Wake Forest in this one. I got Virginia Tech. Wake Forest did not impress me last week watching them play. That's 2:30 kickoff time on ESPN3. You got Middle Tennessee and Rice. I don't remember who the hell I took in this one. Middle Tennessee. That's one of those who gives a shit games.
I'm taking Middle Tennessee just because you did in their basketball program from years back.
Let's see. The only thing I know about Rice is they're the Owls. Is that correct? Yeah. They're the Owls. Like, that's the only thing I know about Rice. Other than that, I can't tell you nothing about. I don't even know where the hell they're located.
They're in Texas somewhere. I just don't know. They're not. They're not terrible, but I don't know if they probably are by now.
Next up, you got Houston at Navy. Of course, I took Navy in this one. Me always picking the.
I really think they're going to surprise. I really think Ken. I forget his name. The coach Ken. I'm not going to butcher his last name. I'm going to read up on it next week. But they have that triple option attack. Can Dana Holgerson's defense stop it? I know if he was at West Virginia, no. So I'm going to go for that.
Next up, you got a pretty big rivalry game here. You got Baylor at Texas. 2:30 kickoff time. Neither one of these teams are ranked, but this is one of those games that are good every year. It's kind of like an Alabama and Auburn game. If they don't make a shit, if either one of them's ranked, it always ends up they play each other harder than they play each other, just playing the other team just about all year. So it's going to be good. I got Baylor in this one.
Would that be an upset? Would that be considered an upset?
I guess you could say it's an upset. Considering
go ahead and hit the button because I'm going with you. Baylor.
All right, we'll hit the button. After I'll hit
Baylor
the button on that. I guess you could have to call that an upset because Baylor coming off them probation years, and are they still on probation?
Well, they just had such turnover. They lost their coach, they found a coach and lost him, and they've just been through hell the last probably 4 to 5 years trying to find an identity.
I remember when Auburn was talking a couple of years ago about hiring their coach right before he got in all that shit too.
Art Briles.
Yeah, they was wanting him over at Auburn.
That's the funny, and I actually I'll ask you this off air. I could on air, but I'll wait till off because I got another coaching candidate for you in Auburn. I'll just say that.
Okay. Next up, you got where the hell was I? Where Texas?
You were Texas and Baylor.
Okay, I was just looking in the wrong spot. Next up, you got Iowa at Purdue. I love this game. I love it when Iowa and Purdue plays. Man, it's like a
throwback kind of, right?
Like a throwback, but it's also usually pretty. It's not usually a high-scoring game, but it's usually like a nasty, hard-hitting game between Purdue and Iowa. Hawkeyes are one of those teams that I secretly got a thing for. I kind of like the Hawkeyes a little bit. I kind of got and for years I've always kind of liked Purdue, so I love this game, man. Every year they play, this is almost like I guess you could say a Army and Navy type game for me of the Big Ten type thing. So I love this game, but I got Iowa in this one. Iowa always seems to have some kind of damn high power offense, man, like all the time. It's like they're good about scoring. But like I said, this is a game that I ain't seen either one of them really play this year. So.
Right, that's the only thing. Because if this was any other year, I'd go ahead and pick Iowa. Purdue's been on the come up, but Iowa, obviously, over the last few years. And I'm with you. This is a regular Big Ten. Hard-nosed Big Ten. This is what makes the Big Ten the Big Ten.
It's one of those mini games like I look for every year. I'm an SEC fan, but I love college football. There's a lot of teams. There's a lot of
so many styles.
There is, man. Not only that, it's just like each conference to me. I think that's what sticks out about college football over NFL. each conference has like their own thing. You know what I mean? And their own feel. Like to me, there's a feel to the Pac-12. There's a feel to the SEC. There's a feel to the ACC. They all got their own feel. They all got there's not a conference. If you're a football fan, if you can't look at every conference, even the Sun Belt, and find something in there that you like, you're not a football fan, man.
Exactly.
There's just no way, man. I just don't get how people hate college football because it's amateur level. It's got some of the best play. It's more entertaining than NFL ever could be.
And if you are an NFL fan, I shouldn't say a lot of these guys, but some of these guys are going to be on your future teams. So that's one way. That's my pitch to the pro level fans to watch.
I love being able to watch. Like for instance, Chris Davis picked off Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
In this past week's game. Now, I know a lot of people might be going, who the hell Chris Davis is, but he's the guy that ran the kick sticks back on Bama. Like for a college fan, that's awesome. I got to watch him almost 4 years at Auburn, and then got to watch him go into the pro and watch him do this thing over here. Now he's picking off Aaron Rodgers. What the hell?
Same with Carl Joseph. They'll say Carl Joseph. He's a Brown now, but with the Raiders, he had 2 interceptions in a game. Just a random safety in the league, but now I'm with you completely.
Speaking of NFL, we're going to take a small commercial break.
No, there ain't no stopping us. Fly without boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Up in a bar, wish on a star. Time to show him who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Shooting stars didn't even get to cross.
That is The Huddle. You can catch it every Tuesday with me and William H.D. Morgan and Dale Presidente. And we bring you everything from our picks to news to everything to do with the NFL. Moving along, I just got a message from this guy.
Real men of genius.
Real men of genius.
He said, I said, hey man, you're now you got 47 losses now on your record.
This song now makes him look what he is who we thought he was. Speaking of
right now he's more like that's more him right now. So all right, man, move along. Next up we got who was the last game we was just on?
Iowa.
Next up, we got Troy at Georgia State. 3 p.m. kickoff time, ESPNU. If you like smaller college teams, this one will be a fun one to watch. I got Troy in this one. Bama pride and all, so.
Yeah, I'm with Troy also. Neil Brown's former school, so.
Next up, you got Georgia Tech, who took a thumping last week to Clemson. That was pretty embarrassing for them. They take on Boston College in this one. As bad as that loss was, and I know a lot of people would go with Boston College in this one, I'm going to go with Georgia Tech. This would be technically an upset, but since both teams are so terrible this year, I'm not going to call it an upset. That's basically the pot calling the kettle black there. It's not going to probably be – there's probably going to be a lot of mistakes in that game also. I agree. There'll probably be some fumbles and bad.
No, I will take BC, and it really don't have anything to do with Clemson either. Like you just mentioned, I just feel like this kind of a coin toss again. Both kind of bottom of the barrel ACC teams.
Next up, we got Chattanooga at Western Kentucky. 3 o'clock kickoff time, ESPN3. I went with Western Kentucky in this. I think they lost last week. But like I said, that's a toss-up. Who gives a shit? Next up, you got Kentucky at Missouri. This is actually going to be a very interesting game. I think it will be. Missouri pulled off that nice win against LSU. Kentucky's pulled off some wins. They're looking a little bit better than they did in that Auburn game when Auburn played them. So I got Kentucky in this one.
Second best defense in all the SEC and 19th overall. That's all I put down for Kentucky. I think Kentucky gets it done.
Kentucky gets it done. I got Kentucky also. Next up, you got West Virginia at Texas Tech. 4:30 kickoff time, ESPN2. I've got West Virginia in this one.
You better have West Virginia in this one. The number one overall, according to it, and that's when 2020 has been crazy when West Virginia leads in defense. No, I think with the quarterback change in Texas Tech, I think the quarterback's name is Columbi. Bowman is benched. He's been the starter since 2018. This is the time to basically put her foot on Texas Tech once and for all, and try to get back in the Big 12 championship picture.
Right. Yeah, I got West Virginia taking that one. Next up, you got battle in the SEC. You got the Gamecocks of South Carolina taking on the Tigers of LSU. South Carolina coming off that win against Auburn. LSU still trying to find themselves. South Carolina still trying to find themselves. They played a very bad Auburn team. Let's not give them too much props here. I got South Carolina in this one.
I agree with you just because I think that win last week, they're going to come off a high, and I feel like Will Muschamp still, like you said, they're still trying to find their footing, identity, and I feel like he does it again against LSU. LSU just undermanned this year, but anything can happen in this game.
Do you hear that, Ed Organ? I picked South Carolina. He's like,
he's agreeing with you. He said, "I am too."
Hell, he's too busy taking pictures with hot blondes and pools and stuff that I've seen here lately to be worrying about college football anymore. He's done made it big time.
I mean, he's the coach. Come on,
Coach O in there. He's pulling them. Next up, you got Louisiana Monroe at South Alabama. I took South Alabama in this one. I really don't know. Louisiana Monroe probably will get this one done, but I took South Alabama. Next up, you got Utah State and Boise State. I took Boise in this. Only because usually Boise is tended known to have a very high, powerful offense. High score, and Utah State's never been nothing to fathom that I can remember in my lifetime. So,
not really.
The Utes. Next up, you got with Wyoming taking on Nevada. I took Wyoming in this one.
That's an interesting pick. Yeah.
They've had some upsets the past couple of years. I'm not going to say Wyoming's getting it together or anything, but they've definitely had some big wins the past couple of years. Next up, you have number 13 Michigan. No, I'm sorry, that ain't number 13. It's number 18 Michigan taking on number 21 Minnesota. I got Minnesota in this one. I think they upset Michigan. I think Michigan is I think their coach is probably going to be on the hot seat after this year. I'm surprised he ain't done been fired.
I really am too. I am going to go with Michigan, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least. Again, going back to these Big Ten teams not being able to play, PJ Fleck again. Row the boat. That's what he's been doing in Minnesota. He's a phenomenal coach.
He is. He's been great. He has that big bow win over Auburn.
Every place he's been, he's succeeded so far, and that's the key to, eventually getting
like we were talking earlier, some of the coaches' names have been thrown out. His is one of the names that's been thrown out to replace Gus at Auburn, and I would have no problem if they wanted to give him a 2-year contract and give him a run. It's just what he can do. Next up, you got Hawaii taking on Fresno State. I went with Hawaii in this one. I don't have a clue.
I'm going to go Fresno just because they're a little more history, and I got a buddy right outside Fresno. I know he's not watching. I don't even know if he has Facebook, but Ola Joe.
Next up, you got Maryland at Northwestern. I took Maryland in this one.
I'm going to take Maryland too because I don't think Northwestern's head's really in it. They've talked about canceling the season a few times, so Maryland for sure.
If I'm not mistaken, Maryland has Tula's brother is up there at quarterback.
Yes, I forget his name, but yeah, he was at Bama for his season or whatever.
Yeah, he played. He sat on the bench at Bama behind Tula and them. So they ended up transferring to Maryland. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does if he can do anything at Maryland.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah,
Maryland's one of those teams that I've always kind of liked. I love the uniform change that they did years back, and like their uniforms might be crazy and outlandish, but I think it's cool as shit. They stand out.
I hate them, but I'll pick them.
I hate them, but I'll pick them. Next up, you got Virginia at number 11, Miami. I went with the Hurricanes in this one.
I got a little quick stat. Miami is 15-2 since 2017, being ranked versus an unranked opponent, and that's what's happening again today. I think they get it done. UVA's 1-3, and not really competing with anybody.
Right. Next up, you got Louisiana Tech at UTSA. Oh, San Antonio over there.
Uh-oh.
All right. Boss man's going to like this pick. I went with UTSA just because I have seen them hang with good teams this year that they shouldn't have been hanging with.
Mm.
I've not watched Louisiana Tech a whole lot, but I'm pretty sure they're just the original old Louisiana Tech, so.
They got the loss last week against Marshall, so coming off a loss, I'm going to say they get another one. Plus, I want to pick UTSA for once. Let's do it.
Yeah, for once. I never have a reason to pick them. Josh likes them. So next up, you got number 9 Cincinnati taking on number 16 SMU. This is going to be a good damn game, I think. I got SMU in this one.
I honestly, again, this wouldn't shock me either way, but the way this SMU offense is rolling. 12 touchdowns for Shane Michelle and 2 interceptions. Cincinnati is 12th overall ranked in defense with 307 yards. And SMU is missing their top receiver and their second or third running back in McDaniel, Roberson and McDaniel for the rest of the year. But I still think they get it done. Sonny Dykes is going to find a way to get this game. And this just feels like an SMU year because of 2020.
Yeah.
If anything else.
They're number 16 and undefeated. And number 9, Cincinnati's number 9. So I guess that technically would be I know the only reason I didn't hit the button is because, to me, SMU is just – they've been good all year. And Cincinnati is just – I've not seen nothing out of them. So
yeah, they've only played, I think, 3 games, and then SMU again they played 5. So again, as we talked earlier, rhythm gets to going, and here we go at SMU, and they're ready to take off.
Next up, you got Texas State at number 12, BYU. I took BYU in this one. I don't think Texas State gets this one done. This is some of the we're in the late games now. That's 9:15 p.m. ESPN.
Yeah, that's a very late game. Yeah.
Next up, you got UNLV at San Diego State, 9:30 kickoff time on CBSSN. I took UNLV in this one. I know San Diego State has been one of those teams that's kind of got some wins they shouldn't have and looked pretty good the past couple of years, but to me, it's one of those toss-up games.
It is. Yeah,
you have no idea who's going to win that shit.
It's a Mountain West game, and don't really know what will happen with anybody in that conference.
Right. Next up, you got Air Force taking on San Jose State. Of course, I took Air Force in this one. And just a reminder about this is 47 games we got this week in football compared to, I think it was like at 29 most of the time, 30, so with the Big Ten playing, it definitely added a shit ton of games.
Yeah. And then we got the Pac-12 coming in a few weeks.
We'll be up to the 50s in, 50s, almost 60s.
Yeah.
Jax forgets those. He might as well just pack his shit and leave.
One more week.
Yeah.
Mr. Randall, come on.
Yeah, one more.
Get it together.
Get it together, bud. The only canceled game I've got over here on the list is New Mexico and Colorado State. And let's be real, at least you go to college there or you went to college there, you probably don't give a shit about either one of those teams.
Yeah, I agree.
We're going to take our last commercial break, and we'll be back for the history moment of the NCAA. That is the Geek Gauntlet. You can catch the Geek Gauntlet every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central Time with William H.D. Morgan and Chad and Gene Emerson, and get your geek on with those guys. They talk about every kind of subject, from comic books to superheroes to women in power to that. I mean, they have a subject on just about anything you can think of. So,
very cool show.
Very cool show. Of course, William and Gene and those guys are the best anyway. So, like, it's fun to watch them. So, all right, let's go ahead and get to the.
As your body grows big, your mind must fly.
That's right. Knowledge is power, guys. Knowledge is power. Go get a little NCAA history. This week's NCAA history we're going to talk about is the 1995 game between Tennessee and Georgia. Running back Robert Edwards, who crushed South Carolina in the opening. This is back when Peyton Manning was the quarterback at Tennessee. Tennessee went 11-1, kicking off a 4-year stretch. I can't say I remember this game. I don't remember it. I'm pretty sure I might have watched it, because I do watch sometimes. I'll watch those history, history games they show on ESPN. 95, I was probably starting to get into football pretty heavy. I'll be honest with you, I had no idea who the hell Peyton Manning was at that time. If you would have asked me, I couldn't have told you who the hell Peyton Manning was. Definitely was not probably paying much attention to what Tennessee was doing at the time, but Georgia has owned Tennessee for years now in football. Yeah. It used to be Tennessee has definitely fallen off the days of glory. They're another team that was in the 90s, was very dominant when they had Phil Fulmer, and they were always a team that you always had to look for. Tennessee, with the rivalry that they had with Georgia, the rivalry they had with Alabama. At one time, it was even argued that the rivalry between Tennessee and Alabama might have been bigger than the rivalry between Auburn and Alabama. Like, it got that big between them two.
Right.
And Alabama has also pulled away miles ahead of Tennessee now after the bad years that Tennessee has had.
I think the hiring of Butch Jones a few years ago, I never was not knocking the man, but I think it was too much of a task for him. And
it wasn't just him; it was many bad hires. Everybody from him to Lane Kiffin. They just never. I don't know. Tennessee reminds me of.
Dooley was in there also. Dooley.
Tennessee reminds me of the years of Alabama, of like after '92 to Nick Saban. That's what Tennessee reminds me of. Yeah. They're a top power, supposed to be powerhouse college, but they're just don't have the right head guy in there. If they ever got the right head guy in there, they would compete because it's Tennessee.
Yeah, and I hate Jeremy Pruitt coming out of Florida State there for a year, got a national championship, and then he basically filled in for Kirby on Saban's staff. He's got the pedigree, but not as a head coach yet. So, questions still remain. I look for Alabama to put the spanking on them again today. Hate to say that kind of, because Tennessee fans can be a little facetious here sometimes. We got a lot of Tennessee implants here in West Virginia, so I might laugh a little bit if Alabama puts it on about 65-3, whatever the score is. But
they might have to throw the mercy rule in on this one. I mean, I'm just going to be real. Alabama's looking really good, man.
Can we do one of those AEW throw in the towels in the second quarter, third quarter?
It's one of those games that you definitely can be in your phone and take a lot of piss breaks and go make you something to eat. I have to really worry about if you're going to miss something huge, probably. One small word from our sponsor. As you see, if you are wanting to get into the podcasting and you have an idea of a podcast show and you have your page already in place, you can get with us here at Pinfall, where we can try to help you make your podcast dreams come true. It's definitely a team effort. You team with Pinfall, we both benefit. We run your advertisement through our shows, and for that, we get to stream on your page. It's a great deal for both people. Like I like to say, there's a lot of people that are in this podcast business, that are in these Facebook groups, that seem to think there's not enough cake to go around for everyone.
Yeah.
and I don't really like those type of people. So I love to shove this kind of stuff out there that, teaming up is a great thing. If you set aside your egos and not worry about, oh my God, is one of my fans going to watch one of his shows, or,
Yeah,
something like
absolutely.
that. I will tell you something, man. If people's into something, they're into something. If they like your show, they're going to watch it regardless. If they don't like it, they're not going to watch it. That's just how it goes. I think Pinfall's a great place to team up with. The guys over here are awesome. It's been nothing but a blast for me and Total Nonstop since we've come over here. I've not had no disagreement with no one, really. Everybody's professional, so I love it here. So if anybody's wanting to team up, get with me in my inbox, and we can maybe make that happen. We are looking at for newer shows of ideas, the stuff that we don't do already. We pretty much got the football shows covered, and the wrestling stuff. That's pretty covered, and the geek stuff. That's like pretty covered. So. We're trying to bring a couple other people. I'm trying to bring someone else on to do a show on here too. I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but maybe so. Be interesting.
Yeah.
We like to run something every day,
Right, and it's a great. I must say, I've watched a few of these. Hang on one second. I've watched a few of these different podcasts. Again, sometimes there's just not enough time in a day, and you guys, everybody's been phenomenal to me. I think this is my third week on here, but real good guys. Tommy, you lead the way. I must say that now. You're the best guy I've ever met. I'm just trying to knock on the rest of them. But great podcasts.
I'm definitely better than this guy.
Real men of genius.
At least I got my picks in. I don't be slipping, Mr. Jax.
Well, to be fair, and I call him the panty dropper now. Brandon the panty dropper. Randy, I don't know if that hurts. I don't know if that hurts or helps this upcoming election, but me and him met on another wrestling site or page. I'm sorry, a few months back. Phenomenal guy. We kept in touch. Just great. I'm thankful to him and everybody here for letting me just be a part of production.
Yeah,
It's
man, you've been
awesome.
awesome, dude. You've been awesome.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
You're always on time. You got your shit ready. I mean, that's like the big. It's people don't realize how much work actually goes into doing this kind of stuff. Some people think it's just a goofing off thing. They get on there and just goof off and talk shit and they're fans, and a lot of work goes into it, especially if you got a week load already on you, with life, and then you got to fit all these podcasts in, and you got to do your research and got to look at this, and got to look at this, and write this down. I mean, there's a lot of days I spend 4 hours writing stuff down.
Absolutely. This was a good, and I cut it back, but this was probably 2.5. I just wanted to mainly get the main points and a couple Big Ten games. So you surprised me there with a couple of them. And I'm like, oh, they play today. I want to watch that. But no, it's great. It kind of feels like we're getting our sports back slowly but surely, and I'm excited for today.
Yeah, me too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this up. That's going to be it for our show today. Make sure to catch us next week. Me and Justin Hicks here will be on at 8 p.m. Central Time. It was a little late today, but I was drag-assing. I ain't going to lie. I woke up, I had some stuff to do last night, so I woke up a little late today. Y'all take it easy, man. We'll see y'all next week in War Eagle. And that is the wrong one. Damn it.
War Eagle one more time then.
War Eagle one more time. Maybe Josh can cut that.